Hello, welcome to Phenomenology Club. I'm feeling sad. Can you hear me? Um, Please, someone in the chat, just give me a confirmation that you can hear my voice transmitting to you. Cause yeah, I have OCD and I'm paranoid about stuff, and it's like I need some sort of confirmation when a thing's bothering me, especially like things like the stove being off. Even though I know the stove's off, I remember turning the stove off. I have to, before I leave the house, go and look at the stove and think to myself, it's off, it's off, it's off, it's off, it's off. And look at it. I'm quiet. All right, let me turn up a little bit. My voice has such a range. My voice is so dynamic. I'm like sad and quiet right now, but then, knowing me, in 10 minutes, I'm gonna be like talking like this, and then I could see that the levels are clipping. So that's why I try to keep it a little lower. Bah! 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 I'm talking excitedly. See right there. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I'm feeling very emotional, which is rare for myself. So I hope anyone listening out there, if you care about such things, you relish this. Especially if I have any enemies. I don't believe I do, but I'm sure maybe someone dislikes me. Relish in my discomfort and my pain. Please. This is my gift to you, anyone who dislikes me. Here's my pain. I just wanna. No, I'm good. The levels are good. I think they should be good. Is it okay? Is it absurdly quiet? Like I said, I might talk loud. And right there, I see it's almost clipping. So the reason that I'm feeling very sad and emotional has much to do with the topic that you can see in this upload. Money. A lot of people say money is the root of all evil, which I believe is actually originates from a Bible verse. I don't know if we got any Bible scholars in here. I'm probably the most Bible I'm the biggest Bible scholar in here, so I should feel ashamed of myself. I do, for not knowing this, but I'm pretty sure damn, people are saying it's quiet. Fine. I guess if I talk louder here, if I start talking louder, I'll go lower. Anyway, is that better? Yeah, I believe that this originates from a Bible verse. Money is the root of all evil. I don't personally really subscribe to concepts like evil to begin with, or at least not in the way a lot of other people do. So I don't know if I agree with that sentiment, but I definitely agree that money is a force of darkness. And I feel like a lot of people who fuck with me and listen to my stuff probably agree with me on most of the basic ideas I have here about money. I feel like a lot of my followers are communists and Marxists and bleh. I don't know if I'm a Marxist simply because I don't feel like I'm familiar enough with Marxist theory to say definitively, yes, I'm a Marxist, but I definitely align with a lot of the goals of Marxism. From what I've read, a lot of if I have problems with Marxism, it's mostly just like with some of the philosophical language. Ooh, we got people quoting Bible verses in here. A. Quinn. It is easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get to heaven. Isn't it so ironic, too, that, like, Jesus in the New Testament is always going on and on about how wealth is, like, such a worldly desire, and, even the desire for wealth could be considered sinful in some capacity. And yet, heaven is described as this place where like everyone's rich. You'll be rewarded with riches in heaven. Like the streets are paved with gold. All of the visual descriptions of heaven in the New Testament, I don't know how many there are in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, it's just like this place sounds like the fucking that photo shoot that took place at Trump's house, that famous one, you know. His place looks fucking ridiculous. It looks like the mafia decorated it. Like it's just absurd. So it's pretty ironic that Jesus is always like, stop desiring money. And if you do, you'll get to go to heaven where you'll have tons of money and gold and jewels and shit. Like, okay, is this supposed to make any fucking sense, guy? No, it's not. Because the Bible doesn't make no fucking sense. But that's a discussion for another day. I love the Bible, by the way, my favorite work of fiction. Although I'm not a big fan of the New Testament, but I'm a huge fan of the Old Testament. That shit is badass. And I'm also a bigger fan of the Old Testament God because that guy was serious. That guy was about his business. New Testament God is so wishy-washy, like, oh, just be nice, love everybody, blah, blah. Like, whatever, guy. I don't even know what you're on about. But yeah, money. Why do I dislike money so much? Well, I'm of the mindset that it's actually kind of funny. Steve McFadden in the chat, I'm not sure which point you said conservatives are skipping over, but you said conservatives always skip over that part. Not sure what part you're talking about, but conservatives especially have this idea we hear repeated like over and over to us when we get in these discussions about government and capital and stuff. They have this idea that money increases competition, and money in many ways and our systems of profit are impetus for people to really do anything at all, you know. When other people like myself make suggestions like, you know, we don't need to even be paid for labor. People act like, what? If you're not paid, then why would anyone ever do anything? And I just think that that's like the most absurd idea I've ever fucking heard. I mean, first of all, like systems of profit, I mean, I think for probably as long as like recorded human history goes back, you could find like, you know, instances of people being compensated for like this or that service. But I mean, like capitalism as we know it, as the system that we live under right now in 2019, almost 2020, I mean, this is like a pretty recent phenomena, like the specifics of how it's set up, you know? Like, even in the not so distant past, I mean, think about like early fucking settlers in America and also, you know, the natives that early settlers came and fucked up. Like, were either of these groups of people just like existing in this system where they only did stuff with the hopes that they could profit from it? I mean, like, people just like set up their fucking farm. They had to have a farm because they had to feed themselves. They had families. Like, a lot of these people didn't have jobs. Their job was to stay alive. And of course, they're going to fulfill that responsibility without needing some sort of motivation, really, because who the fuck wants to die? I mean, even if I can rationalize I want to die, my body in most instances does not want to die, you know? I could be a depressed, sad sack sitting here like, I don't want to eat, I don't care if I go on, I don't whatever, which I am feeling today. But my fat ass still got up and ate some fucking food because my body was like, you know what, bitch? I don't care what's going on in your head. You're hungry. I'm fat, you better feed me. So get your ass up and eat some fucking food. So, I mean, like, this is obvious. Like, people are going to fulfill their most basic needs without it having to be like a job, you know? People aren't just going to sit around and waste away without a job or like a system of profit that they can quote unquote advance in, you know? And like, the more you think about this, it's like, well, then why the fuck do we even have jobs to begin with? I mean, think about, I don't know what kind of jobs you people work. I'd be interested in that. I'm sure you have all types of different jobs. But like, is like, are so many of our jobs even necessary? Like some of the jobs I've worked, the first job I ever worked, I was like 14 or 15. I worked at Party City or something. Actually, I don't think it was called Party City. It wasn't the official franchise. It was like a knockoff. I think it was called Party Land, like a party supply store. I had to like fill balloons and stuff. It's like, is this thing necessary for society? No. If I didn't work at this job and make some like measly fucking minimum wage so I could like go buy a cheeseburger, would I die? No. I would find something to eat. If I had to go outside and grow it myself, so fucking be it. It's like people don't need a job to stay alive. And if staying alive is like what's more important than staying alive? If you don't need a job to stay alive, then what do you need a job for, For what? Why do we need jobs? You could make the argument that you need jobs to like build a society, which I would agree with. If we want to have some sort of an organized society, which I personally do, I appreciate the benefits of organized society, things like government. I mean, not ours. Fuck our government and fuck pretty much any government I can think of. But hypothetically, I completely am in support of a thing like government. I think the cause of government is noble, We basically organize and create a society with laws to counteract natural hierarchies. And I've talked about this so many times on this channel, especially in my thoughts on government video stream. Go listen to that if you want to later. But I'm somebody who very much believes that we create government and organized society to counteract natural hierarchy. Because in nature, we're all fucked, right? We're all so vulnerable. And all of us to varying degrees. Like, if you're somebody without a lot of physical strength, if you have a disability, if you're a baby, a child, a female, anything else that can be understood as like something that might be a physical disadvantage when put up against other people. But even also being the most fucking jacked dude out here, even being fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger, I feel like in nature, Arnold Schwarzenegger becomes a target. The rest of us know that motherfucker can choke me out with his bare hands. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna kill him in his sleep. So I don't have to worry about it, We have to take out the competition early so that the rest of us can sleep easy. But this is a really relevant idea when thinking about money in particular. Because what is the purpose of these systems of profit? And what is the purpose of getting money, I feel like profit as a concept, what is it except for resource hoarding? That's all we're really doing with money. That's all money enables you to do. The more money you have, the more food you can buy, the more land you can buy, the more healthcare you can buy. Basically, it translates into material goods, right? That's why we created this system of profit. Money in and of itself is really nothing, but what it affords us is literal material goods. And a lot of these goods are necessary for our survival. And we have all types of wealth inequality in this country and around the world, where we see people are homeless and dying because they don't have this fucking thing that means nothing, that they can't like go trade in for material goods like healthcare and food and whatever, And not only that, but the people with money hoard those resources away from them. So it's not like it's not so easy that's like a person who's homeless could do a thing like what we were just talking about with early Americans, whether natives or early settlers, that they could just go fucking start a farm or something. Like that's like near impossible. Without money, you can't even just like go start your own vegetable garden, I'm sure you could, but it's difficult as hell. Cops are going to show up and be like, what the fuck are you doing? Get the fuck out of here. This isn't your land. This is this person's land and this is that. And where's your permit and this and that and fucking that. I mean, you even gotta fucking buy seeds in most places. I mean, like, it's so impossible to really prosper or even stay alive without money. And this is why I think, too, it's so hypocritical when people say that money increases competition. It absolutely does not. Money really basically is a system for people to just totally buy out all their competition, and other people can't even fucking compete. And this is I mean, like, this food is a great example. We're just talking about food. Food is a thing that I feel like the quality of has become so fucking disgusting because of money. Like, I mean, I live in a tiny town. Like, I feel like probably not that long ago, there were so many more just like restaurants owned by individuals. There's like some farm kind of around here. I don't know. People probably like raise their own crops and stuff, but this is all so expensive. And then you start to compete with the big grocery stores. You're competing with McDonald's, which is giving you this disgusting fucking processed as fuck food for $1 or whatever, because because they have a lot of money to do this, to buy out these fucking disgusting fucking processing centers and make their fucking garbage to feed us for $1. Like, bleh. I mean, like, there's no competition in food. I feel like competition is just like decreasing. Like, it's like there's less and less options for food to eat. It's like, do you want to go to McDonald's? Do you want to go to fucking Chipotle? Like, there's like a few fucking big players in like the fucking fast food industry or whatever the hell, and these places come in and buy out small restaurants. There's like, I hate eating. Like, I mean, I love eating because I'm fat, but I fucking hate, it's like I can't even eat vegetables from the grocery store without like thinking about like, these are probably like sprayed with fucking chemicals. Like, I don't even have an option to just like go get something fresh. There is a local farming section, but I don't even know if I believe that shit really came from a local farm. And how do I even know if those people aren't spraying their shit with whatever the fuck bullshit? Who the fuck knows? Ugh, God. But I think that the same exact thing is true for art, and this is why I'm feeling sad. Because, I'm an artist, and I guess you could say that my career is as an artist. My income, all of my income comes from my art making in all different types of capacities. I do freelance video editing, I do freelance design, all types of design. I make money through Patreon. Subscribe, by the way, if you haven't, please. But when thinking about art and making art for money, like, this is something that I feel like I have a different opinion, or a different mindset, at least, because I don't know if these people would even disagree with me. But like, I always see online and stuff, I'm friends with a lot of artists. I always see so many people being like, just like almost like complaining, like, pay for your art. Like, whoa, I'm an artist and people don't do this and they don't appreciate my art and paying for this and that. And it's just like, I understand the sentiment. Like, you want to be paid for your skills because, making art is a skill, but I just cannot relate to this attitude where you're critical of like other people purchasing art and stuff more than you are of just this system that we exist under. Like, I don't want to be a career artist. I don't enjoy being a career artist for many reasons, but I also don't, I mean, I want to live in a society where I can just fucking make art. And if I have to work another job to be a part of that society, especially in a society that I felt was truly egalitarian, where we shared responsibilities, the responsibilities that were necessary for a thing like staying alive, say we live on some fucking commune. We talk about this a lot in Phenomenology Club because we're always trying to build this hypothetical system of government called New Jersey, like, and New Jersey. If Imagine, or just to think about America, imagine if we distributed all of our work equally and also got rid of all these fucking dumb, unnecessary jobs. We would only have to work for what, like an hour a fucking day? If all we had to do was worry about staying alive, you know, like wake up, go do some fucking shit on the farm, go do your farm chores for however long or whatever, tend to the fucking animals or whatever. Do whatever the fuck you gotta do. If we all split that work evenly, like we would work what, like 3 hours a day max? Then you go home and you want to make art, go make some fucking art. Everyone can go home and do whatever the fuck they want. That's the world that I would want to live in. No one has to pay me to make art in this hypothetical world. No one ever had to pay me to make art. I didn't become an artist because I wanted to make money, you know. But this is why I think that art is being ruined, and maybe has been ruined in a way that's similar to what we're just describing about food, you know. Being a career artist has become a thing where I think a lot of people who don't even really give a fuck about making art or, like, you know, anything like this, they want to become artists because it's seen almost as like a get rich quick scheme, you know. It's seen almost like as an easy thing. And I think it's seen as an easy thing because it really is enjoyable. A lot of people enjoy this process of creating. And this is why I say I would never need someone to give me some sort of financial incentive to make art. I just do it. Of course, I have to pay rent and stuff. So yes, I will make art sometimes I don't want to make because, you know, someone hired me to do it or whatever the fuck. I mean, this happens all the time. This happens every month. But it's like... this system where people have turned art making into a career has totally, in my eyes, destroyed artistic competition, and it totally destroys the quality of the work. And I feel like this process is sort of multi-tiered in all of its terribleness. I mean, I said something online yesterday, and this is part of why I'm feeling sad, because I'm thinking about this. Like, I feel like I'm not as excited, or I'm really not excited ever really to like share my art with the public anymore, you know? This used to be a thing that like I enjoyed so much more. I just don't enjoy it as much anymore because I feel like there's no there's no culture. Like, I don't even know when I give art to the world, to whoever's listening, if any of you like my art, you know, like, I don't know what you even like about this, you know, because it's like you look at the art industry, you know, and I'm involved in a few different artistic practices, but to use music as an example, because I think music is one of the most explicit examples of what's wrong, what's going wrong, as it relates to all this. Like, it's like you look at the landscape of like what's popular in music right now, and it's so confusing, right? It's like you have all this shit that's just totally trash. It has no sorts of artistic merits, you know, and it's totally successful. But then you also see people who are genuinely talented and, you know, making shit that you might consider like harder to access, and they're also wildly successful. It's not like they can't also become successful, but as an artist it becomes so disillusioning, and I become so discontent because it's like, well, I don't even know what's what anymore. Like, do people want or do people just want something else? Like, I don't know how the system works, you know? I don't know, like, what people want, what people appreciate, whatever. And so for me, like, I lose the excitement of even presenting my work to an audience, because this new audience is something that doesn't function the way that historically I've come to understand there being an audience for my art. You know what I mean? Like, I went to art school, and in art school we would make something and we would present it for critique. And the audience that critiques you gives you some sort of feedback and they tell you I like this because this is this or whatever. I don't expect that from people who I like present my music to. I don't need people to like sit down and give me a fucking critique or whatever. But it's just like I don't feel like the audience exists really to like necessarily I feel like they're not there for the art. I feel like maybe they're there for something else because there must be something else here that like can make people successful or can make people flock to them because like I just said, so much trash is so successful. Why is that so successful? There must be something else at play here. And I think we can begin to identify probably some of what this is. I think some of it is just like virality. Like the more followers you have on the internet, the more maybe like certain people have already like co-signed you or something. Maybe the more physically attractive you are or something. Like these kinds of things also influence how much success I think a lot of artists will have. And it's like, well, how am I supposed to interact with any of these variables? I don't want to. It's not fun. I can't be competitive. Like, I'm somebody who's so competitive. I like competition. I like inserting myself into competitive outlets. I don't feel like that exists in art anymore. So for me, it's like not fun to even go in. I can't compete. There's nothing to compete with. It seems random. The process seems like it's become completely randomized. Like, you put something out into the world, it truly doesn't matter what it is. Maybe it'll blow up, maybe it won't. It really doesn't matter what the fuck you make. The chances of your thing becoming successful are just like, I don't even know how you can exhibit any sort of control. I'm sure like the more well made a thing is, I think that still remains a variable. Like I said, I think a lot of people who are genuinely talented and have really interesting art, they do still become successful, some of them. But I don't think that that's really like going to make or break a lot of people. Like, you really don't know. It's random. And that's why I don't think that there's really competition. And that's why it's not fun for me even to like interact. It's like, who fucking cares? It's like casting shit out to the wind. Like you're playing the lottery. Like, oh, maybe it'll whatever. It's just like, eh. And this isn't to say like I'm never going to put stuff out. I will continue to do this, but I mean, I said it online as well. I feel so dissonant. I feel so disenchanted with this whole process that I don't feel like a fire under my ass. Like, oh, better get this thing out. Like, people are waiting or whatever. I don't feel like those people are really my audience, even though they technically might function as one in some capacity. I feel like my audience, or an audience I desire one day, I probably haven't encountered them yet. So I find myself, because I am such a critical person, I feel like I at least hold myself to a standard. So when I'm sitting here making art by myself, like I become satisfied just in doing this, like being my own audience. I'm like, no, bitch, that sucks. Do that again. This is dumb. That's dumb. Okay, great. Move on, without even releasing these things to the public. I mean, I'm constantly creating, but it's become a source of frustration for myself because, a lot of people express to me, like, I wish you put out more of this and that. And it's like, yeah, I just don't care. I'm trying to care. I just don't. I don't. It's not fun. I'm competitive. I need competition. I don't feel like this is it. Maybe I need to find smaller venues or something. Like in art school, I felt this sense of competition because I was competing with my classmates, And that was fun. That was a great time. But like out here in the world, just like giving money, or not money, giving art to the world, the internet, I don't fucking know. It's like, who cares? This isn't even this is boring. It's boring. I don't give a fuck. I don't appreciate what's out here. I don't expect anyone to appreciate what I put out here either. I don't think this is the venue for me. Anyway, so, yeah, this is part of why I just really, I'm turned off when I see people say this, and I see it all the time. I see people just complaining about how they don't make money as artists and this and that. It's like, And like I said, I'm someone who makes all my income from art, but like, it's like, why do you want to uphold this culture that exists that is like literally choking the life out of fucking art and artistic competition by complaining about like how you think you deserve more money? And this is also an idea I just don't understand in the first place. Like, I don't really think that art, I don't understand how you can make the argument that art really is a thing that should ever be a career, because it's like, well, why do you deserve something? What if I don't like your art, for example, you know? Like, so many people they seem to feel so entitled. Like, I deserve more. I work so hard. It's like, yeah, but so does everyone. You're not special, you know? And art is a thing where a lot of people just aren't going to like your art no matter what. I would never expect that I could work. I mean, I do work so hard, you know? And a lot of people, I think, don't fuck with what I make. And it's like, well, then they just don't fucking like it. I'm not going to sit here and demand that people give me fucking money. Like, no. Especially because I chose this. Because I don't need financial incentive, you know? It's not like I was born an artist. And this is just my lot in life. I must do this thing. Like, no. I chose to become an artist. I enjoy making art, you know? And I think everybody is creative. Art is a thing. I won't call it a hobby. I think that it's something it enriches a lot of people's lives, both as the artists themselves and as the audience for the art. You know, I'm not going to say it's just some like superfluous hobby, but I don't understand like why art should even like be a fucking career for anybody. Like, everyone has something they want to do. We make art because we want to do it, you know? Like, no one's just like, oh, what should I do? I don't know. My dad wants me to become an artist. My family's pressuring me to become an artist. Imagine. Has that ever existed? Maybe in like the 17th century where like, you know, everyone's got to choose their little apprenticeship and somebody's just like so good at something and they're like, you're going to be the next Da Vinci. The town has agreed. Like, we're sending you to fucking... Who knows, you know, but art is not a thing that is like generally regarded by the public as like, somebody has to do this, you know. The thing somebody has to do is waking up and doing your fucking chores on the farm, which is why I say I would be totally content to live in some society where I do something that I feel is useful for everybody. Because my art will never be useful for everybody. I think jobs should only be the things that benefit the group, society, you know. Those are the only jobs we need, and everything else should be done willingly, you know. This is how I feel. Fuck it. You know what? I feel a lot better getting that all out. Kari Waite says, mad kids get pushed into classical music. You know, that's actually true, definitely. That's a good point. But I think classical music is a little different, too, because classical music has become a thing where there's such an industry behind it, too, that people get pushed into classical music because it'll be like, your grandfather went to Juilliard and he was on the symphonic orchestra, blah, 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 for New York City, and we have to follow the family legacy. And like all these people, I mean, not all of them, I'm not going to say that, but it seems like most people who get pushed into a thing like classical music, they come from a tradition like this. You know, their family's probably already wealthy, lives in some fucking amazing high-rise in Manhattan. They come from old money. They have the luxury of doing a thing like, you know, my kid has 5-hour-long piano lessons every day, and he's going to be on the symphony, and I know the symphony person myself, and he got a full ride to Juilliard and yada yada. There's definitely like a culture of wealth that exists there, and it exists in the art industry as well, but I think it's just not structured in such a way where you see this happen as much, where, you know, someone might pressure their kid to become a cellist because of whatever, but you don't see that as often with a thing like art. But that's also, too, because, yeah, I mean, because of how these things are fundamentally structured. If you become, like, a a crazy classical cellist, you still have to get a job doing a thing that's like part of a group, you know, being in the symphony, being second chair, whatever the fuck. But you don't see this really with fine arts. It's like if you become a incredibly successful, wealthy artist, you're just kind of this free-floating person. You're fucking Damien Hirst hanging out with the Olsen twins or whatever the fuck rich art people do. I mean, and that's a whole other discussion. I fucking hate the art industry. Oh, it's so fucked. It's so fucked. Like, the Met Gala, it makes me sick every year. Like, that people, you know, people just like me and you, people that don't make a ton of money, how can you sit here and fawn over these celebrities and their fucking little outfits, paying $30,000 to go to the Met, which is paid for and remains open with the dollars of tax-paying New York City citizens, and just like be like, oh, look at these little celebrities. They close the event to the public. That's so fucked. That should make you mad right there, you know? Art's supposed to be free. This is why we set up public arts, even in America, the dumbest, shittiest, stupidest place ever. Maybe not ever, but I fucking hate it here right now. Especially right now. Sitting here seething in my anger. If that doesn't make you mad, you're a fucking pussy. That's all I gotta say to you. Like, have some fucking dignity. How can you sit here and get excited about what fucking Rihanna is wearing to the Met Gala? No shade to Rihanna. Rihanna seems cool, actually. You know, I don't think she would. I feel like Rihanna would be in Phenomenology Club. Rihanna, if you're listening, love you. Join Phenomenology Club. You know, she didn't create this system, but still, like, that shit pisses me off. It's closed to the public, and then, you know, they do this thing, too. I don't know how many of you live in or around New York. I've been to the Met. Well, recently I heard that they closed. You have to buy a ticket if you don't live in either New York State or the tri-state area. It might be like Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. But it used to just be all donation. But even when it was donation, they make that like the fine fucking print. You go to the Met and they're just like, $25, please. And you, unless you know, like, no, I don't have to give you $25. This shit is free. That's why taxpayers pay for it. You know, for it to remain open and free to the public, I don't have to pay you, you motherfuckers. So you're going to do what? Buy a Damien Hirst piece for $10 million? More than $10 million. How much is a fucking Damien Hirst piece? I don't know. $50 million? Fuck him. Fuck you, Damien Hirst. I'll fight you, you dumbass. Ugh. It's so fucked. It's like just the most elite, dumb fucking bullshit. And again, this kills competition. It not only does it literally destroy competition, it makes people like myself, not that I'm so fucking noble or whatever, but it makes me like just not want to participate, and then I do withdraw. I don't want to participate, you know? I do in some capacity, but it's like, who cares, you know? And I feel like this is true. Like, I mean, personally, all of my favorite artists and musicians, for the most part, are people that are not incredibly well known. You know, I would say most of them have some like modest success, and this is part of why I know who they are at all. But most of my favorite artists are people that, you know, are, in my opinion, criminally underrated, because they're not competing with their art. The merits of their skills and abilities is not what, I mean, it got them their modest level of success, but this is not how we judge art in the public. This culture of wealth and industry is just destroying the quality of literally everything, of art, of music, of food. And this has been a slow building process, you know? Like, I don't even know if it makes sense to be like, it's different now, you know? I don't think it was necessarily better in the past, especially when you look at the history of art making, you know? So much of what's historical canon with art and shit is like, you know, the king hired this asshole to make this portrait of him and his wife, and you know, it's like, this is still the art piece that's in the gallery. It's like, well, this guy was just chosen, and there's a big system of wealth here that made him be chosen. He was the apprentice of fucking dick sucker motherfucker number one or something, and he got chosen because he's rich and fucking whatever. But I think that the less opportunity people have to do things on their own accord, then of course naturally there's going to be decreased competition as far as like the quality of things go. This is a very salient point, actually. I was reading I believe it was in Metaphysics by Aristotle. I forget which part. If I find it, I'll post it. But Aristotle was writing about the ancient Egyptians and the Egyptians that he coexisted with, because Aristotle did much of his studying in Egypt. And what he said was that the Egyptians invented all science and math. And I mean, we know this in retrospect to be untrue. I believe that, science technically is from ancient Sumer, however the fuck, I don't know. I don't think Egyptians technically invented math and science, but Aristotle didn't have a fucking airplane. It doesn't matter. The point is, Aristotle said that the Egyptians invented all science, and his theory for why this happened, which I think is so funny because a lot of conservatives for some reason fucking love Aristotle and act like he's like a good mascot for them. Like, I remember where like Ben Shapiro not long ago was talking about how like Aristotle is the most cornerstone genius of like Western thought and stuff, and he was saying this amidst a discussion about how like Muslim people over exaggerate their scientific contributions historically or something, which I just think is so stupid. And he's someone who seems to believe like people gotta have work. We need money. He's one of these assholes I'm talking about that would be like, without profit, without systems of profit, no one's gonna do anything. You need to create competition, and money creates competition. I'm Ben Shapiro. Suck my dick. But anyway, it's ironic that a person like him purports to love Aristotle, because what Aristotle has a theory for why Egyptians, in his mind, invented all math and science. And his theory is that this class of Egyptian priests that became created in this Egyptian society he was observing, they had the luxury of leisure and basically downtime. And Aristotle believed that because they had time and were not forced to labor all fucking day in the field and toiling over whatever bullshit, because they had time to themselves, they were able to become innovative, So his theory essentially is that innovation springs from leisure, which is, it's just so ironic because a lot of people seem to have the exact opposite idea. People like Ben Shapiro, the exact opposite idea that, like, good things only come from, like, suffering. You better get out there in the field all fucking day long and suffer like the piece of shit that you are. Otherwise, we won't have science and we won't have this or that. I mean, that's another thing to think about. Think about doctors before the medical industry became a thing, Why was anyone a fucking doctor? Being a doctor, I think, was almost like being a volunteer firefighter, especially like in the not so distant past when, they didn't really understand how things like disease worked, but I'm sure they had an inkling that, like, I better not get too close to this motherfucker because it seems like people in the same household are all getting this disease, so there must be some corollary between like literal proximity between physical beings to each other and disease and how it's transferred, But doctors, a town doctor, they'll just go to your fucking house and like try to help you. And like a lot of these people don't have fucking money. It's like, yeah, I'll give you 2 zucchini. Or I don't even have zucchini right now. All my crops are dead. But can you please help little Timmy? Little Timmy's got the fucking fever. Please. And the doctor would do it, Like, what motivated him? People are a lot less greedy than I think we like to give them credit for. Like, we like to talk about humanity in general as just being this, like, disgusting, cutthroat, hateful group of biological beings that just fucks everyone up in our immediate surroundings. We fuck each other up and we fuck up all of our animal peers that we share this planet with, we fuck up everything. I think this is true, but I don't think that we conceptualize it the right way. Like, to think of a concept like greed, you know, people always say this when I have these kinds of discussions too. They'll be like, well, people will always be greedy. You can't stop this or that. And I think that the concept of greed is similar to the concept of selfishness, which is a concept that I also don't really subscribe to, because what does selfish really mean? You know, is being selfish actually bad? Or when we say selfish, I mean, the definition is so vague, which is why I don't use the word. I feel like when we use the word selfish in a derogatory way to say a thing is bad, what we're really saying is that they're hoarding more than they need. That's selfishness, you know, that's greed. But being selfish as a more neutral concept, I think this is unavoidable, you know. Literally, biologically, we are all hardwired as living beings to prioritize our own survival above everybody else's. And it's not that this is even a thing that should be worded that way either. It's just like, as you are an individual, naturally you are selfish because you cannot escape yourself. I can't take my psyche out and put it somewhere else, into someone else's body, to see things the way they see it, you know. I'm a selfish being. I am the center of my universe, you know. I can't help that. So I think naturally, of course, people are going to try to do things like hoard resources. They're going to do things like take advantage of other people's vulnerabilities. They're going to do things like murder their fucking neighbor to take his zucchinis. Like, you know, but this is all part of why I think government needs to address this. And the current reality that we found ourselves in, this capitalistic fucking hellhole, is not a reflection of human greed or corruption. It's a reflection of a poorly structured government that does not fulfill our needs. A truly well-structured government is going to account for this. Because like I said, government exists to counteract natural hierarchies, you know? Just like murder is natural. You're never going to stop people from murdering each other. Does that mean we should just not do anything about it? Of course not. This is part of why we have government. And this is something a lot of people seem to agree with much easier than this money point. That we create laws to mediate things like violence, which is a natural phenomena, you know? We need to do the same thing with money. We need to create governments that mediate the distribution of resources so that we don't have these incredible disparities and we don't have people outside dying on the fucking street because they don't have fucking monopoly money. And then beyond this, I mean, these are the most pressing issues, but beyond this too, like if we care about things like the quality of food and of art and whatever, then we want to address this too, you know? Like, I think it's just undeniable that these industries, just like the mass fucking production of a thing like art now and food, like things that I think most people will agree with, like, are better, are more enjoyable, the more that we put diligence and care into the creation of them. I think if you give a fuck, then of course you're going to want to counteract what's happening here and why we all live in shit. Ugh. The Lobster Child says, I'm a billionaire, but a cool billionaire. I spend half a quarter of my wealth on charity. Great for you. Thank you for your service. I'm sure that charity organization probably gives like 5% of what they actually are donated to what they pretend to. Even charity is a corrupt institution because charity is a way for people to fucking make a ton of money too, you know? I mean, I feel like charity became such a big culture in America, partially because, you know, all these billionaires use charity and shit as their excuse for why they can get a tax cut. So they form their own charity corporations to be like, oh, this is the charity for fucking, I don't know, muscular sclerosis or something, and we give this much to it or whatever, and they all fucking make money too. I hate everything. All right, I've been going on for 50 minutes. I feel a lot better. Thank you for letting me rant to this audience. Um, and I kind of like felt bad about what I said. Not that it matters, because I'm a nobody. I exist in a vacuum. But I don't want, like, anyone who fucks with me to think I'm just completely uninterested in having any sorts of, like, audience with you, especially people who are gracious enough to support my art, financially and do whatever. Like, I want to, I appreciate the audience, any audience people will give me, but here too, like I appreciate people caring, and Phenomenology Club is something that I actually do feel a lot of motivation to continue, because for myself, I feel like this is even like more valuable than just like making music or whatever the fuck I'm making and putting it out into the world, though I don't think that that's like completely not valuable or whatever, but I feel like doing this is maybe even something that like more people can get use out of, and I enjoy the interaction and the audience I feel like I'm able to have with this project. So thank you to anyone who fucks with it. I feel like these conversations for myself are important. And I feel like these are the kinds of conversations that are necessary if we're going to try to craft solutions and how to deal with all shit. I've got a little buffering sign. Oh, I think I'm coming back. Hold on, let me refresh. Okay, yeah. Looks like I'm back. I don't know if you just heard that. I'm sorry about that. We're in a snowstorm and my power went out. But I mean, I'm gonna get out of here anyway. Thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me get emotional with you, my audience, who I love. If I sound depressing, I don't want people to be depressed, but depression is, or it could be understood as, some sort of evolutionary tool. Am I wrong? If something's wrong, we gotta fix it, right? I don't know if you guys agree with all that I'm saying here, that something is wrong and needs to be fixed, not just as it relates to art. I think there's much more important issues we're facing here. I mean, our human peers are literally dying because of this bullshit. So I think it's incumbent on all of us to care. And if we can do nothing ourselves, I think even having conversation is important, with each other. It is important, because even if your ideas don't necessarily feel like they reach much of an audience or they get far, I think just putting them out into the world is more influential than a lot of people might realize. It's kind of crazy how much we make impressions on people in our immediate environment just by, having a conversation with one person. It's not even that, like, that person needs to go repeat your words elsewhere even, but the way that we all come to internalize what sorts of ideas we speak about with each other, I think that in and of itself is powerful, And to think about a thing like philosophy too, I mean, I don't consider myself a philosopher. I would love to be one day. I think philosophy is just as important as art. I mean, I think philosophy is art in many ways, and that art is philosophy. I would love to get my actual credentials one day, just so maybe someone could take me seriously if I do have anything meaningful to say. I want to make sure that it reaches an audience, because what good is creating any art or any philosophy if you don't share it with the world, I don't think either of these activities are fulfilling in and of themselves. They're valuable for what they afford all of us, in our human community. But yeah, shit. Maybe one day I can be an official philosopher. But I think even a thing like this, it's kind of sad to think about, but also sort of amazing and maybe even inspiring to think about how many people died completely alone, thinking they had no audience, only for their work to become influential after they'd already passed away. I mean, isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy to think like somebody like Nietzsche, for example, really had no idea that he would become like a household name, not only for people who read philosophy, but he's well known among people who don't even read philosophy. Like, it's amazing and it's inspiring in some ways. At the same time, I can't help but feel sad for Nietzsche himself, you know? But either way, I think if he was aware of this, you know, I think he would say it doesn't matter either way. Like, I think he would have continued to do things just as he always did. I don't think he would be like, damn it. I think he would just be glad that his work reached an audience. And I don't know how he felt as he was dying, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You don't need to make things, I don't know, thinking that, don't make things for success. As, at least a thing like art or philosophy, because I think the success is ultimately found in the strength of your ideas, because this is why we value art and philosophy to begin with. So that's me trying to end on somewhat of a positive note. I love you all, and I hope you have a good night. I'll speak to you later.